Yesterday we looked at how the word revival in the Old Testament, one of the words for revival in the Old Testament is talking about bringing the dead back to life, and so bringing death into life. And what a phenomenal miracle that is, that God is still more than able to do that today, and that's why we need to seek Him for revival. But another word for revival that we find within the Word of God is a restoration, a spiritual restoration. And so that's what we most commonly we think of today when we think of a revival as a spiritual restoration. And so we need to think of every form of revival. That's what we're talking about, each one of these things. And so that spiritual restoration to those who have spiritually forsaken God, have spiritually turned their back upon God, those who know Him, those who are called after His name, but spiritually they have forsaken Him and turned their back upon Him, and they're calling upon God to restore them and not to bring judgment down upon him. And so we find in Psalm chapter 85, beginning in verse 4, it says right here, it says, "Restore us, O God of our salvation, and cause your indignation towards us to cease." And so calling upon God for that restoration to that right position in Him. And in verse 5 it says, "Will you be angry with us forever? Will you prolong your anger to all generations?" And in verse 6 he says, "Will you not yourself revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you?" When you're living in sin, you can't rejoice. You can't rejoice in God. You shouldn't be able to rejoice in anything when you're living in sin. So we call upon God. God, restore us to an upright spiritual position to where we're in right relationship with you, and your indignation will not fall down upon us. Revive us again, O Lord, is what the psalmist said. Allow that to be our prayer. Prayer for yourself, pray it for your church, pray it for the church all over the world, for every church. Revive us again, O Lord.